Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Okay, is it on? Can you hear? Good morning. I know it's early, but good morning. There you are. So Z and I are going to be doing a weave this morning, sharing the talk back and forth, and we're talking about the topic out of our mind. So I'm just going to give you a setup, which is when we are in our mind, we hear a chatterbox. Anybody? Just me? There's a storyteller. One of the things that Miguel likes to call it is a storyteller. And one of the things it does, its job, is to constantly interpret and tell stories about what has happened, what is happening, and what's going to happen. Now, I'm imagining many of you meditate. Anyone meditate? So you maybe have glimpses in meditation or out of it of being out of your mind. Those moments between those stories, yes? So one of the summaries of my years in study with Miguel, I came up with what I believe is a perfect for me combination of science of mind and Toltec, which is this. If you are feeling really bad, you are believing a lie that storyteller is telling you. Now, I used to say that the exception to this was grief. But recently, I've been realizing that for me, when I'm not believing the storyteller and I'm in my grief, it doesn't actually feel bad. It's not my favorite, but it's not suffering. It's more that beauty of accepting that something's happened that I wouldn't have designed myself if I was the designer. And it's an expression of the love that is present for me that allows me to grieve what's changing. Does that make sense? So I stand by it now wholeheartedly. If you are believing a lie, you're believing, if you are, either way, if you're believing a lie, you're feeling bad. And if you're feeling bad, you're believing a lie. Now, this is true whether you're believing a lie you're telling yourself about yourself or about someone else. You ever notice that? You walk away, not that any of you would ever do this, but I have a little catty edge in my storyteller. I'll walk away. I can't believe he's wearing those shorts with those socks. And then I feel bad because the lie I'm saying is whatever silliness about that. So this morning, we're talking about what you can do when you notice that you feel bad. What are some of the things you can do to get back to the truth? So Z is going to begin with that.
Good morning, everyone. So first, I just want to let you know, yes, my name is really Z. That's legally my name because my nickname as a kid was Betsy. Do I look like a Betsy? So I changed it to Z, just so you know. Everyone always asks, is that really your name? So in terms of the mind, the crazy mind, there is perhaps no better way to look at how crazy the mind can get than when we make a mistake. And so I want to share with you one of the worst mistakes I ever made on stage. It was when I was playing the piano, and just to give you a little bit of history about me and the piano, I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. I was one of those kids who actually wanted to play the piano. I asked my mom if I could have lessons, and she said, okay, and I loved it. I loved playing the piano. The only thing I didn't like was the yearly recital. Can anyone here relate to that? It was just terrifying for me to have to get up there and play. I hated it. Other than that, it was great. But after about 15 years, I studied classical piano. I grew tired of being alone, playing by myself in the room all the time, so I quit. And then about 10 years ago now, I started attending the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa. And they have a choir. I joined the choir. The choir director found out I could play the piano, and she decided that I was going to accompany the choir. This was not my idea. She said, this is what's going to happen now. I still remember the first Sunday that I played with the choir there in Santa Rosa. There's 1,000 members at the Center for Spiritual Living Santa Rosa. It is a big place. The first time I played on stage, my hands were literally shaking. It was hard to make contact with the keys. But the worst part was what happened in my mind after I played. Maybe some of you can relate to this. I took any mistake that I had made and I blew it totally out of proportion. I ignored all the things that had went well, and I replayed my mistake in my mind again and again and again. One of my friends called it piano prison because it was just this form of self-torture. Talk about the crazy mind, right? A few years after I started playing piano, I started playing with Melissa as well as the choir. And one Sunday, we went to do Sunday morning music at a metaphysical center down in the Bay Area. And we're there, and at this point, I had graduated to doing solos. I was kind of fancy now. And this particular center did live streaming, so they talked with me about coordinating so that when my solo came, they would get a close-up of my hands and my face. So the time comes for my big solo, and I'm there, and I'm at the keyboard, and I look up, and the music for my solo is gone. So I'm there, and I'm playing, and I put one hand on the keys and the other hand desperately trying to find my solo. It's gone. The band is looking at me like, this is really bad, what are you doing? Melissa's looking at me, I'm looking back like, I know. I just did my best. I got through as best I could. I sat down after the song was over, and the most amazing thing happened. I did not go to piano prison, not even a little bit. And when I looked back at it, I could see the church where we were playing that particular morning was Unity of Walnut Creek. Unity of Walnut Creek is the first metaphysical church I ever attended back in the early 90s, years ago now. And so when I was there that day, I was full of love. The love from the people there, love inside. I was just full with the love of the divine. And because of that, the negative talk, piano prison, couldn't get traction. It had no place to go. So our tip number one that we offer in terms of staying out of the crazy mind is to remember the love. And there are many wonderful ways of doing this. One is spiritual community, coming to places like this, surrounding ourselves with loving, supportive friends, and spiritual practice, meditation, prayer, affirmations, because when we engage in these practices, we are tapping into that love, the love of the divine that is always there, and can help keep us out of our minds. Melissa?
I love when she tells that story because I was there and it was really bad. They're showing on the screen her hands, and one of her hands is, it was really extreme. So in my years with Miguel, I heard this awesome story that for me was an example of what happens for us and what can happen for us when we stay out of our mind enough to live in the truth of who we are. You know, quantum physicists have proven that there is more space. You've heard all these things, I know. Amazing things. So what they've shown in quantum physics to me is the evidence of what we talk about in these centers, that there is really just one thing happening. And that is what you are. You are infinite, magnificent, miraculous amazingness. Amen. So my experience of this story that I heard long ago in my years with Miguel was a friend of mine went with him somewhere and told me this story. And my experience of this story is that it is evidence. It's like what the possibility is for how good we can get at actually not being in our minds. And it was this very short little story. They went to an event together, my friend and Miguel spoke, did his thing, signed his books, whatever, all he does all the time. That's the deal. And he walked out to get in his car, and his car was gone. And he had that moment of, I thought I parked my car here. And Frank said, yeah, that's where we parked. And the car is gone. And he said, my car's been stolen. I get to get a new car. That's where he went first. Now, I don't know about you, but I would maybe get there. But it would be a little longer route to get there for me. So my personal experience of this in my own life is this story. So I, as Sue said, I have all these CDs out, one now with my wife. But back in the day, when I did my first two, I did two at a time because I did one that's songs and one that is chants. Some of the, you guys know that chant, I am remembering who I am? That was mine, I wrote that. So chants like that, like short affirmative statements set to music repeating. So I did one of each of those. And then years later, after touring around the country, I came here a couple times, doing my music and like that, I decided I was kind of getting a little tired of singing those same songs, and I had written these new ones, and I would do an album. And at the time, I told my then husband that this was my plan. I'm going to go do my next two albums. He thought I was totally crazy. He was shocked that I wanted to do this, and I was shocked that he was shocked. Like, why would I not want to do this? I don't understand. And we didn't really have a whole conversation. It was just, no, I'm going to do this, and, I get stubborn. I'm sure you can't imagine, but Z can tell you. So I didn't even want to hear why he was questioning this. I just knew this is what I'm going to do. So I did. I got all through the recording process, and there's a process at the end of all the different recording, all the different, you record the guitar, you record the piano, do all this thing, record your singing, and then you mix it. Right? And it's just like it sounds. You mix it all together. You decide the volumes of each thing, and you EQ. You do all these things to each sound of each instrument. That's mixing. And the mixing is one of the very last steps in the process of recording. And in the mixing process, I had gone over to another town that was far enough away. I was staying in a hotel. And after, I guess, 2 or 3 days of mixing, I called my then husband on the phone, and I said, I won't use the exact words, but this sucks. This album is not good. What am I even thinking? I feel like what I really should do is go back into the studio and just re-record all my vocals. And then maybe it could be okay. So the thing about the process of mixing is you isolate each thing, meaning you hear just the guitar. And you turn it up loud, and you turn it up quiet, and you change things, you tweak, 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 tweak. And the engineer's doing all this. So when you do that to your own voice, it's very much like what Z was talking about. You know that thing that we tend to do when we are in our mind of noticing the things we didn't like about what we said or did, and like not even noticing the things that we liked, and blowing them up. This actually does it in a room of sound. You turn up your voice, and it's just like, all you can hear is, oh, I made that noise with and then, oh, there's that thing where it's not quite smooth. I mean, it's like looking under a really strong microscope. And if you have any perfectionism, not that I would, there could be an invitation there to think, I look at all those things, I hear all those little things that bother me, and my summary about this is, it sucks. I need to go back and re-record it. So I called him, and I was going on and on and on and on and on in my toxic hell. And he said to me, remember when you told me that you wanted to record 2 new albums, and I was shocked? I said, yes. He said, this is why. And I said, what do you mean? He said, but see, what you don't remember is that when you recorded your first 2 CDs, we were together at that time, he said, you called me and you went on like this every day for a year. You didn't wait till you were mixing. You would go into the studio, you'd be recording the guitars. I don't play guitar. It was someone else. And I would leave. And the difference, what I realized in looking back was, the difference was that the storyteller didn't have the same story to tell. Because when I was recording my first 2 albums, the chatter, the conversation of the storyteller was, who the hell do you think you are that you're recording an album? That you think you're a good enough songwriter? You think you're a good enough singer? You think you're a good enough producer to do all this? Who are you to think that you can do this, that you should do this, that it's appropriate that you would put yourself out in the world like this? Second 2 CDs, I was just recording another CD. I already had become the person who has a CD, who records their songs, who does, like my whole concept had changed. And the first one, I was in my mind the whole way. Second time, I was out of that story until the ending. So I have a little mantra for you. This is my practice for you. It's a very deep, ancient, sacred mantra. When you notice that you're feeling bad and you notice the chatter in your head, this is what you say to the chatterer. You ready? Please repeat after me. Take a deep breath. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Repeat after me. Liar, liar, pants on fire. And so it is.
Okay, so we have remember the love and calling the liar on their stuff. So for our third and final tip in this idea, I want to share with you the technique I use to get out of piano prison. This is something that has proved to be really, really effective. And we all know piano prison, in my example, is playing piano on stage. We can go to piano prison about anything, right? A conversation we had with a friend, something that happened at work. We can even do it within our entire lives. Anytime that we take what has happened and we ignore all the positive things, take the one negative thing, blow it up out of proportion, right? I can't believe I said that, whatever it is. In the case of our life, we might ignore all the positive things about our life and just say, my life is horrible, right? So with piano prison, what I came to learn to do was, if and when I caught myself going to piano prison, which was actually, this is step 1, because I would sometimes spend hours there believing the lie, right? So I've done live performance. Live performance, by definition, you're going to make mistakes. So the performance is over. There I am for hours, spending time locked up in piano prison, not even really knowing I've done it. So that was the first step, is wake up to the fact that I'm doing this, blowing something out of proportion. Step 2 was to make myself list everything positive about the performance. Now, this can be challenging sometimes. It's helpful to have a friend or loved one sometimes help you list all the things. An example, if you're saying, my life is horrible, for example, to have some help in someone having you see all the positive aspects. And so that's step 2. You make yourself list all the positive aspects about the situation, and you don't stop until you're done. And it's often very surprising once you get going, oh yeah, in the case of the piano, this went well, these are all the things that went well. And once you list all the positive aspects, then and only then can you go back and look at the things that maybe didn't go as well. And what's interesting when you do that, when you look at the quote-unquote negative things in the context of all the positive, one of two things can happen. One thing that can happen is you say, you know, that really wasn't that big of a deal. When I look at this in the context of all that went well, no big deal. The other thing that can happen is you realize, you know, I really want to do something about that. For example, in the case of something you said to a friend, you know, I think I want to make amends. Or in the case of the piano prison, what I was able to see was, oh, okay, that one thing that didn't go so well, here's something I want to do about it. But when it was in the context of all that went well, I wasn't beating myself up, right? I was more able to make a positive, constructive change when I was seeing it in context. Now, I don't even go to piano prison because I beat myself to the punch. What I do after live performance, for example, is I make myself right away list all that went well. Don't even let myself go to prison. List all the positive aspects, and then I can look at the things I might want to change or improve in context. So there we have it. Some ways to get out of your mind. And when we think of the things that we've talked about, remembering the love, calling the liar on its stuff, deliberately focusing on positive aspects, all of these are a way to tap into the divine, tap into spirit, tap into God. Because that energy, that one, is love, is perfection, is positivity. And when we want to get out of our mind, the crazy mind, the lying mind, there is really no better way than tapping into the divine. Let us pray. And today we're going to do something a little different.
There is only one power, one presence, the source and the substance of all. Behind and through all seen and unseen, this infinite love is what breathes me. It is the breath. This love is what blesses each moment in time, and it is here in this moment called now, showing us how to live our lives in peace. We are one with that, and it is all that is.
So in the awareness of this one, in the awareness that we are one with this power and presence that is beyond imagination, that is beyond anything that we can conceive, and yet is here now, in this moment, in this room, in this prayer, in each and every one of us. And so I claim and affirm in this moment that we are grounded in this one. We are grounded in the awareness of love, the awareness of the perfection of the divine. And as we move forward in our lives from this room, from this day, I claim and affirm for each and every one of us that we remember who we are. We remember the love. We remember to be skeptical when the mind starts to tell its lies. We remember to deliberately focus on all of the blessings, all of the positive aspects of our lives. And I am grateful, so grateful for this awareness and for this change in consciousness in this moment now.
Thank you for making this so. Thank you for taking it, making it better, and making it so. I stand in confidence that this is yours to do, and it is done, it is done. Because I know it's done, it is easy to release and let go. And so it is.
And so we anchor this prayer by saying together, and so it is. Amen.
To love, serve.